So, how many reps? I know, it's a question that most of you ask me on a pretty regular basis. And so in today's video, I'm going to answer just that question. How many reps do you need to do in order to restore a normal movement pattern? If you're new to this channel, I'm Tara. I'm a neurologic physical therapist with over 20 years of experience helping people restore their mobility and their independence after a neurologic injury. And my passion and my mission for this channel is to provide anyone whose goal is to restore a normal movement pattern after a neurologic injury with as many tools as possible to be able to achieve that goal. And all that said, today's video is probably one of the most common questions I get, and that is how many reps? And I want to start the answer to this question by first dividing your exercises up into two categories. There are exercises that are intended to restore a normal movement pattern, and equally important, there are exercises that you should be doing just to maintain normal fitness and strength, or maybe even improve your overall fitness and strength so that you can optimize your brain's ability to restore normal movement. And it's important to be very clear what exercise falls into which of these two categories. And again, you should be addressing both of these issues, and so you should have exercises in both of these categories. But let's start first with exercises that are intended to maintain your fitness or maybe even improve your overall strength and fitness, which we know is correlated with decreased risk of falls, and being strong and fit helps to maintain brain health. So when it comes to fitness and strength, separate from restoring a normal movement pattern, we're going to get to that in a minute, you want to implement the overload principle. That is the principle that is utilized most frequently when it comes to building strength. And simplified, what is the overload principle? You should be challenging your body with a little bit more load than is comfortable, right? If you don't stress the system is not going to grow. So there are a few things I want you to think about when it comes to an exercise that's intended to maintain or improve your overall strength and fitness. And one is you should try and select an exercise where you're not compensating too much, meaning you've already received or achieved some level of automaticity. And we'll get to how that applies differently to your other category of exercises. But automaticity means that the movement is pretty automatic and normal looking without you having to think about it too much. For example, if walking on a treadmill, you're compensating, you're hiking your hip, your leg is stiff, it's a peg leg, it's swinging around to the side, that would be an exercise that maybe would not be appropriate for the strength and fitness category. However, some of you can do a bridge and keep equal weight on both legs. You could do a squat, many of you, and you can maintain equal weight on both legs. You could do an extension exercise if you're at the if you're at the gym and you're using the machines. You could do that seated exercise where you do knee extensions, and you could do it very similarly on both legs. Those would be exercises that would fall into this that could be falling into this fitness category. So one is the exercise should be an exercise that you can do and maintain normal form. So once we get beyond that threshold, the next threshold is you should be able to do 10 to 12 repetitions of that exercise without loss of form. If you can't, that exercise is too challenging. So that would be on the low end, things to look for where you maybe need to bump that down. Now let's go to the high end of that, meaning that we are now trying to adopt that overload principle. If you can do 12 to 15, and you still feel like you have more gas in the tank and you are maintaining form with that exercise, that means that you need to add more load to that exercise, either by adding weight or a resistance band or an incline. Those would be ways that you could maybe add an additional challenge so that you are stressing the system within reason. If you add the additional difficulty and you lose form or your performance declines, you added too much difficulty, you need to back it down. But now how many reps? You want to be able to do 15 reps, roughly 12 to 15 reps, and do 3 sets of whatever that exercise is that falls into this fitness category. And remember, there's that Goldilocks zone. You don't want it to be too easy. You don't want it to be too difficult. You got to find that sweet spot, adopting some of the principles that I just went over. Okay, so that is an essential part of your recovery, maintaining or improving overall strength and fitness. And that's the answer to the question of how many reps. But now let's get into the question that most of you are actually asking, which is how many reps do you do when it comes to an exercise to normalize a movement pattern? And in this category, there is no reps. So if you are still thinking in a reps mindset, you are thinking pre-stroke, where you really were going to the gym to build strength and you were adopting that overload principle. That is a much different principle that needs to be applied than you will need to normalize a movement pattern after a neurologic injury. You guys have heard me talk about this a ton. But normalizing a movement pattern is not strengthening a muscle, but it's creating the right neural network, and it falls under the theory or the principles of learning. And how do we get the brain to rewire? The number one way you get the brain to rewire is through repetitions. Many, many, many repetitions. So what does that mean when it comes to doing that exercise on a daily basis? It means you do it within each session as many times as necessary, where you feel like you have progressed in your learning, or that you have at least spent enough time on it to where if you did any more, you are brain dead. Just like if you were learning another language. The more you do every day, the more learning is going to occur. So for me to put a number on it, I would be limiting some of you who could do way more and probably learn that skill faster. And that's what frustrates a lot of you, is that I don't put a number on it. The more you do, the faster you're going to learn that skill. So that is going to be different for everyone. Some of you are retired. Some of you have a little bit more motivation and drive because maybe you're earlier in the recovery process. But the truth of the matter is, the more you do it, the faster you're going to learn that skill. And then the second principle that could or should be applied is you are trying to move through the stages of motor learning. I've talked about this quite a bit, but what are the stages of motor learning? Initially, it requires a lot of thinking and you need a lot of feedback. Maybe you're working with a therapist and you don't know when it's right and when it's wrong, when the movement is correct and when it's incorrect. So your therapist is giving you a lot of that feedback. Maybe they're giving you a lot of manual cues. That's what we call kind of the cognitive stage of motor learning. When you get to the associative stage of motor learning, you are more able to pick up on some of those error cues yourself and you're able to self-correct. But in most cases, if you were to leave and go do something else and come back, you would have to kind of start back over at the beginning, maybe do a few passive range of motion before you go into actually doing an active range of motion. But there is some sort of degradation in performance if you leave the activity and you come back to the activity. And then the final stage of motor learning is when it's automatic, meaning that you could have a conversation or you could have some additional stimulation around you and you could still perform that movement and there'd be no loss or degradation of performance. Now, why do I tell you that? Because when it comes to how long you should do an exercise, depending on your goals, you should be working towards that automaticity. And remember, I said that term earlier and I told you guys to remember that term. It means that the movement is now automatic, meaning you could add a cognitive challenge and your form would not change, or you could leave the activity and go do something else and you could come back to it and you could repeat that normalized movement pattern without really thinking about it. That's when you have reached automaticity. Now, why do I tell you that? When you get to that point with a skill, it's no longer in the learning bucket, and maybe that new movement pattern that is now automatic can help you to add an exercise to the fitness and strengthening bucket. And so that's how the two of these merge together. Every time an activity gets to that automatic stage, it goes over into that fitness and strengthening category. And the beauty of that, of adding it into that category, is you will quickly Notice when maybe your movement pattern has changed because you're doing it every day as part of your strengthening routine. And that's important because tone can fluctuate throughout your recovery. There's a variety of factors where you might kind of lose a movement. You will quickly be able to identify that and you can move it back over to the normalizing the movement pattern bucket and really go back down to the basics and make sure that you have all the fundamentals again for that skill, and then you can transition it back to the fitness category. Hopefully all of that made sense. If this video resonated with you, we do have a membership program where I've taken everything I've learned in the last 20 plus years of treating people with neurologic conditions, and I've put it into our membership program. The real gem or pearl of that membership program is the group coaching. And the topic that I covered today is a topic that we've actually covered in our members group and is the type of guidance that you will be getting during our group coaching calls. To learn more about our membership program, to sign up or to schedule a discovery call, to talk to someone in person about your goals and whether or not our program is right for you, you can visit rehab-hq.com. But that is it for this video. I enjoyed spending time with you all today, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good day.